Jesus gives us the third beatitude in Matthew 5, verse 5, and he says, God blesses those who are meek. God blesses those who are meek. Meekness is the third step to getting healthy again. Now, the Bible lists many benefits of meekness. I've just listed a few on your outline. The meek shall be satisfied. The meek he will guide and teach. The meek will become wise. The meek will be filled with fresh joy. There are many, many others. The problem is we misunderstand this term. None of us really know what meekness is. In fact, we often confuse it with another word that sounds like it. Meek sounds like what? Weak. And nobody wants to be weak. And so nobody wants to be meek. But the truth is, meekness and weakness are at the exact opposite ends of the spectrum. Meekness is in no way weakness. In fact, it literally means, the Greek word for meekness literally means strength under control. It is the exact opposite of weakness. To be meek is not to be weak. It's used of a stallion, a wild stallion who was tamed and taught to be ridden. And that stallion still has all of the strength that it had when it was wild. But now it is strength under control. It is strength bottled up for the master's use. God doesn't want you to be weak, but he does want you to be meek. And the Bible teaches that it is one of the keys to stress reduction in your life. Now, if I were to give you a simple definition of the word meek, I would give you this phrase. You might write it down. Let go and let God. Let go and let God. That is the essence of meekness. It is surrendering, submitting, agreeing to what God wants to do in your life. It's letting God be God in your life. Let go and let God. Now, folks, I don't know a phrase that'll do more for your health, physically or emotionally, than this phrase, let go and let God. If you'll begin to practice this phrase in your life, it will definitely relieve stress when you let go and let God. It will definitely eliminate worry when you let go and let God. It will definitely diffuse anger if you'll let go and let God. And it will definitely do all kinds of benefits like end your hurt, end resentment, if you'll let go and let God. So today I want us to look at how do you do that? How do you let go and let God? The Bible tells us you do it 4 ways. And to help you remember this, I just put it in a little acrostic, M-E-E-K. These are the 4 ways to relieve stress in your life on the road to getting healthy again. The M in meek stands for the first way you can let go and let God, and it's this: make Jesus the manager of my life. Make Jesus the manager of my life. Now, the problem is we want to be the manager of our own lives. So we argue and we disagree with God. We think we know what's best. We think we know better. And the reason why you're under a lot of stress is constantly in your mind, you're fighting God. You don't think about it, but you do it all the time. You think you know better than God, and so you argue with him. I know God says to do this, but I want to do this. And every morning you get up and you have a decision to make. Who's going to be in charge of my life? Do you remember that old TV program, Who's the Boss? Remember that show? That is one of the fundamental questions of life. Who's going to be the boss in your life? Who's going to be the manager of your life? You or God? Who's going to be in control? You or God? Who's going to call the shots? You or God? Who's going to be the one that directs and leads in your life? You or God? And every day, moment by moment, you are making that decision. When you choose to make yourself the manager of your own life, it causes conflict, it causes confusion, it causes stress, and it causes a lot of turmoil in your life. God says, why don't you just relax? That's the first step to stress relief. And let Christ be the manager of your life. Look at this first verse, Job 22, verse 21. Read it with me. Stop quarreling with God. If you agree with him, you will have peace at last, and things will go well for you. I want you to underline or circle 2 things in that sentence. Peace at last, and things will go well. Peace at last, and things will go well. How many of you would like to have in your life peace at last and have things go well? Can I see your hands? That's what I figured. Everybody would like to have that. Well, he tells us, stop quarreling with God. We say, God, I don't like the way you made me. You made me too tall or too short, too fat, too skinny. Why didn't you give me different parents? Why didn't you give me different talents? I don't like the way you made me. And God says, I made you because I have a unique plan for your life, and I made you that way so you could fulfill the plan I have for you. Now, the stress comes when you try to be the manager of your life and you don't understand the way God made you. And so you start trying to plan your plan for your life. You get under stress. You do not let go and let God. And you're uptight all the time. God says, I made you, and if you'll let me, I will manage you in the way that makes the most of what I made you to be. Because God knows how to make the most of your life more than you do. So you need to relax. You need to let go and let God. Notice this next verse, Matthew 16:24. I love this in the Message paraphrase. Jesus says, anyone who intends to come to me has to let me lead. You're not in the driver's seat. I am. I like that. He says, you're not in the driver's seat. I am. Now, here's what Christians do. We know that when we become believers in Christ, we say, okay, Jesus Christ, you take over the driver's seat. We then promptly hop into the back seat and do backseat driving. Oh yeah, Jesus is in the driver's seat in my life. But you're reaching over his shoulders going, no, turn this way, turn that way, stop, wait, go forward, faster, slower. Oh, I want to go that way, I want to see that side. Jesus said, am I the driver or not? You have Jesus in the driver's seat, but you're constantly giving him advice from the back seat, saying, this is the way we ought to go. Now, I want you to circle a phrase in that sentence. Let me lead. Let me lead. Do you do that? Do you let God lead in your life on a day-by-day basis? Or are you still trying to lead? Many years ago, Kay and I took dancing lessons from Arthur Murray Studios. We're special. And the Arthur Murray Studios dance instructor told us that one of the biggest problems couples have is who's going to lead. And when they both try to lead, they just step on each other's feet all the time, and it doesn't look very pretty. Your life doesn't look very pretty when you're trying to lead with God at the same time. You just need to let God be God and make Jesus the manager of your life. Last year, Kurt and Jerry went on an African safari, and they learned a lesson about following the instructions of the guide. One day, a guide took them out to find an elephant herd, but he made them promise in advance to obey his rules before they even went out. And he gave them some very specific rules. He said, first off, he said, if I say run, you run. Don't pause, don't stop, don't take a picture, don't smell the roses, don't think you can hide, don't drop to your knees. You run. Law number one. He said, number two, when you run, when I say run, you follow me, the guide, exactly. Put your feet in my footprints. Follow me step by step. Don't try to forge your own trail, because in a panic, you'll get lost in the jungle, or number two, you'll step on things you wish you hadn't stepped on. So he said, you run when I say run, and you follow my steps exactly. Well, sure enough, they came on an elephant herd, and it stampeded. And the guide said, run. And some of the people froze in their tracks from fear, from panic. And the guide said again, run. And Jerry said, at that moment, in spite of my fear, I had to move forward. I had to go forward. If I hadn't obeyed, I would have been trampled. If I hadn't followed exactly in the footprints of the guide, I might have stepped on something, or I might have gotten lost. But the point was, she said, I had to make a decision to obey before I was in the circumstance. Now, if you wait until you come to the moment of temptation and say, now I'm going to do what God says or not, you're already a goner. Maturity, spiritual maturity, is deciding in advance to obey God. God, you're the manager of my life. You created me, you formed me, you shaped me, you're the potter, I'm the clay, and so I'm going to trust you. And so I'm already telling you up front, I'll do whatever you ask me to do. If it says go here, I'll go there. If it says do this, I'll do that. But you make it in advance. There's an old hymn that goes, trust and obey, for there's no other way to be happy in Jesus but to trust and obey. You need to do that. You need to make Jesus the manager of your life. Look at this last verse. Give yourself to the Lord. Trust in him, and read the rest with me, and he will help you. Now, when it says give yourself, what's it talking about? It means to abandon yourself. It means to let go. It means to surrender, to submit, to say, you know, I'm all yours, God. I'm going to go, I'm going to bend with you. It's kind of like the trees in my backyard. Kay and I live out in the canyon, and our home is out on a point of a canyon that it's unobstructed for about a quarter of a mile. And so the gale winds come down and hit our home at full force quite frequently, 60, 70 miles or more an hour. And I've had different kinds of trees in my backyard, and some of them break and some of them don't. The difference is, do they bend when the wind comes? There are some that are rigid when the wind hits them. They refuse to bend, and as a result, they pop off. They break. We lose branches, we lose limbs. Some have got uprooted, because they are stiff, they're rigid, they resist. On the other hand, the trees in my backyard that bend with the wind, they're the ones that last. They bend, they give into it, they go with the flow. Now, in your life, you can be rigid and you can reject the winds of God. Go, I'm not going to go that way, and you're going to break. Eventually, you're going to break. On the other hand, if you give in and you submit and you say, God, you know what's best for me anyway, and you love me, I'm going to trust you, then you will last throughout the lifetime without all these breaks and hurts and pains in your life. It says, give yourself, and it says, trust. You know, in many ways, life is kind of like riding a roller coaster. Now think about this. In a roller coaster, it's got a beginning and an end, and between those two, there are a lot of hills and valleys. And between those two, there's some times when it speeds up, and there are times when it slows down, and you don't have control over either of those. And your life is a lot like a roller coaster. What you need to do is you need to let God strap you in to the roller coaster and just go along for the ride. Now, I used to worry and be afraid of roller coasters, but I'm not anymore, because I know it's not just a machine. There is an operator, an unseen operator behind that roller coaster. And they've got cameras pointing on all angles of it, and he's in control the whole time. And I don't have to worry, because the unseen operator knows where I started, knows where I'm going to end, and he's going to get me safely to the end. There may be some twirls. There may be some ups and downs. There are a lot of times in my life where I feel like it's out of control, but it's not. There are times on a roller coaster you may feel like this is out of control, but it's not. There is an unseen operator pulling the switches and going to make sure that you start right, you end right, and you go safely through the journey. There is an unseen operator in your life.